barrel, so lock, stock, and barrel, that's our first idiom. Now the first thing that I do, after I cradle it like this so it's nice and balanced and I've freed up my right hand, is I pull the hammer back to half-cock position. This exposes the pan so that I can actually fill it with powder. Now what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this modernized cartridge. This is not what the cartridges actually looked like, and I'll show you what one looked like in just a moment. But I would open this up. Now if I was using a real cartridge, I would actually bite it open with my teeth. As a matter of fact, one of the qualifications for joining the British regulars was, take a guess folks, what did you have to have? Teeth, but only two of them, one on the top, one on the bottom, opposed to each other. You couldn't have one over here and one over here. You weren't going to gum that thing open, folks. So we take a little bit of the powder, we put it in the pan.
They're laughing.
And now we have arrived at our second and third idiom. The ways that this thing could misfire. Again, the gun is in the half-cocked position. I don't want my gun to go off. Half-cocked. Also, now I'm going to close my frizzen cap because I put my powder in the pan. The frizzen's the thing that flint will actually strike against. But again, another way this could go off is I could have a flash in the pan, which means that I forgot to reload or put my shot and wadding down the tube. And that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Now, I'm going to take the rest of this powder charge. I'm going to dump it down the barrel really hard, right, folks? Now, also, I do want to point out something. The cartridges that I would be using would normally be in a nice little belly box, which would have about 18 holes in it with all those pre-packed cartridges for me. Now, as a ranger, I actually wouldn't have that. I would have what I have right here, which is a nice little pouch with a... Does anyone know what this is called, actually? A powder horn, yes. Now, there are some advantages and disadvantages to having a powder horn versus a cartridge. The nice thing about the cartridge is it's pre-filled, so I don't basically have to count out or measure my shot, the amount of powder that I'm putting in, so to speak. It's done for me. So the gun will actually fire consistently. But when I have a powder horn, of course, I have to eyeball it. So I could put in easily too much or too little, and that might cause a misfire. The advantage of the powder horn, however, waterproof. So if I'm on scouting missions and going through a swamp or a river, my powder doesn't get wet. It's very important, as you probably already know, to keep your powder dry. Now, in this case, I'm going to put down my fiber wadding. I'm not actually going to put a ball down here. Cuomo kind of frowns upon firing live rounds. But I do have a little joke for you, guys. Why is a regular called a regular? He gets his daily dose of fiber. It's a poop joke, guys. Get it? Now, I do want to know one other thing here, folks. How many of you have seen the movie The Patriot, or maybe the Sharp series with Sean Bean before? You might see in that them taking the musket ball in their mouth and spitting it down the barrel. That wasn't done, and there's a very good reason for that. This is what an actual cartridge would look like. So you can, as you can see, the top of the paper here is actually folded. That's the part I would bite open. But my powder and my wadding is here. The ball is there. So in order to get the ball in my mouth, I would essentially just have to shove that whole thing in my mouth. When I fire this off, though, the barrel does get quite hot. Now, assuming that I was spitting the ball down the barrel, I would have wadding, the musket ball, and the powder in my mouth. Seeing how this could go wrong, folks? Yeah, it wasn't done. I would basically blow off the lower part of my jaw if I did that. Now again, if I was a ranger, just a note on reloading, I would probably do a tap reload. It's really hard. Ready? Here's how you do it. That's it. Again, you want to compress the powder down if you want this to fire consistently. So a tap reload had a higher chance of the gun misfiring. In this case, I'm going to use this tool, which is called, anyone know? Anyone a fan of Super Troopers?
Ramrod.
Yeah, I heard ramrod over there. Yes, that's usually what does it for people. It's a ramrod. So I'm just going to let the rammer go down. I'm going to pack that down. Now, guys, I want to note, I am going slowly so you can see every step of this process, but I would be given up to 20 or 25 commands in terms of getting this thing ready to fire. But in terms of firing this, I'm just going to reduce it down to 3. In this case, the 3 commands are going to be to make ready, at which point I will shoulder this weapon and pull it to full cock. It's then ready to fire. The second command will be to present. Now, why do we say present rather than aim? Well, this thing's a bit inaccurate, folks. Just to give you an idea, even though this gun went into service in 1722 and was retired in 1838, had a 116-year-long lifespan, pretty beefy, it was quite inaccurate. In 1811, as a matter of fact, the British government finally decides that they actually need to test the accuracy of this thing. So they line up a bunch of targets like a typical European-style field battle, and they have the men take pot shots off at it. Now, note that the maximum range of this is about 350 yards before the penetrating power of the bullet drops to the point where it's just going to leave a nasty bruise and not actually go through the flesh. Does anyone want to take a guess, though, as to what the accuracy in terms of percentage of the shots hit Was it 100 yards? Take a wild guess, folks.
5%.
Oh, everyone's lowballing today. It was higher than that. I was just saying, 100 yards, if it was only 5%, this would be a garbage weapon.
25%.
You're getting a little bit closer. It was actually closer, my friend, to 50%. It was 53% at 100 yards. But at 300 yards, 23%. So not a very accurate weapon. That's why we say present. Now the last command, folks, is the most obvious. Say it with me. Fire, or in this case, if we're using 18th century vernacular, it's give fire. Sergeant, would you like to give me the command, sir?
Yes.
Love the enthusiasm.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. Make ready. Present. Fire.
Ooh. Now that wasn't a bad bang, was it, folks? But I think we could make a bigger one. You want to fire off a cannon? All right, I like the enthusiasm, folks. Come on, let's go up to the northeast bastion.
Did you take